Okay. Yeah, Dave, just to let you know, I decided to start recording this, and you guys as well, but I wanted, since you were going to show renovations, I want my wife to be able to see what's going on there. So
I can actually get out and do a little bit of I won't go around the entire stadium or anything like that, but I can give you a better look if you like.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Kentucky just finished they're technically called it finished, but of course they can play football games, so they got a few aesthetics to do, but they just did a $120 million renovation on their football stadium. And everybody talks about Kentucky basketball being the big money. It's not. It's the football program that brings in the most money for that school. It's because of their ties with the Southeast Conference and the TV revenues and all that. So,
really? That's a great – I mean, most people would think that, though. That's a great fact. I'd never would have guessed that ever.
Kentucky actually, their sports program makes a profit based on their football revenues. So everything from basketball is gravy.
Wow.
That's the way it is for basically all Division One programs.
Really?
All the money and profitability comes in from the football. So they need to have sellout crowds for football games and stuff like that. That way they can support the swimming team and the softball team and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
True.
That's the way it's here at Notre Dame. The profits made from the football team goes to fund all the other athletics teams, men's and women's, for the university. Fencing, swimming, track and field, you name it.
Yeah.
It funds it.
Yeah. And Notre Dame has great non-revenue generating programs too. You know, I mean, they're.
Oh, I lost audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they do.
So, Claire, are you going to watch Sun Devils play at all tonight, or?
Well, really, it's on Pac-12 networks, and I don't get Pac-12 networks, unfortunately. At home, I'm a cord cutter, so okay. It's Cal Poly, so I mean, I watched the game last week, but this one here I probably won't.
I'll probably pass it as well. For the others, just one of the interesting things that's been going on out here for a couple of years now is there's been a gun battle with DirecTV and the Pac-12 network, and DirecTV has not been showing the Pac-12 network, so you have to get Cox Communications or what I'm on to do it.
But the rumor is out though that they're going to be carrying it soon, but the contract and agreement is more than just carrying the actual network. It could be everything from an equity stake in the network to, because now AT&T bought DirecTV, so there's other things like infrastructure and communications. So it's a pretty sizable contract that they're doing here. So I've been hearing for the past 2 weeks, any day now. Well, that's been 2 weeks ago now. So.
Yeah, that's hopefully they'll get it done, because I mean, man, there's been you're leaving a lot of viewership on the table without them. I was going to ask Dave before he got there. Kelly, is Nebraska Nike, Adidas, or Under Armour school?
Adidas, I believe.
They're Adidas. Okay. Arizona State was a Nike school for a long time, and they switched over to Adidas this season. Have you heard anything about that, Claire, or what's? I mean, I wasn't too crazy about the move.
Yeah, I'll be honest here. I'm a U of A guy, and I've always been a Nike guy. I really have not liked anything that Adidas has done. Adidas, they're now with Michigan, and they showed off the new Michigan uniforms, and they are absolutely horrendous. Yeah. So, on the positive side, though, I mean, competition is good, so they're definitely giving Nike a run for their money. So it was like an Under Armour, but Under Armour has been going more towards the individual athletes, and that's a sponsoring program.
Right.
Still, it's U of A's always been a Nike school, and I'm not a big fan. Even still, a lot of things that Nike have done, especially with Oregon, but. With the U of A, though, they still kept the traditional look and tone and feel and so forth, and just kind of altered it a little bit. So, I think it really goes on. It seems like it goes on a case by case scenario depending on what the school wants to do. U of A plays later on today too, so they're playing at Nevada, and that's at 4:00, and that's going to be on CBS Sports Network tonight.
Yeah.
Oregon State's beating Michigan right now in the first quarter, so 7-0.
Poor Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's been interesting because people assumed that just because Jim Harbaugh came on board this season that Michigan was going to be a contender or something like that. They're already looking forward to the Ohio State game and all that. Dude, let me tell you, the cupboard is bare up there right now.
It is.
They don't have the players, you know. I'm glad Harbaugh's there because I think Kelly, you and I were talking earlier. I just think certain programs have to be good for the sport rate. You know, I mean, and Michigan, the Michigan-Ohio State matchup has to matter. It has to matter. Nebraska-Oklahoma has to. Well, Nebraska's in the Big Ten now. I'm sorry, but you know, Nebraska has to be prominent. Notre Dame always has to be prominent. If Notre Dame's a 500 school, you know, then
it's not good for college football.
It's not good for college football, you know. And so it doesn't mean I like those schools, but man, they got to be good to carry the sport. So
like them or not, it makes the sport a lot more interesting. People are just naturally more appealed to the sport when all the teams are good.
The other piece to it too is that I've been meaning, you know, for me, just sports in general, sports needs that villain, quote unquote, franchise. Not meaning that Notre Dame or Nebraska or Miami or whoever it is. They just need that polarizing franchise to be good, because then that elevates everybody else.
Right.
That's just my personal opinion.
Right. When Pete Carroll was out at USC, you know, and they became prominent. I mean, you watched every week hoping that they would get beat. I mean, I was always wanting them to get beat, you know, and then that's just the way it is. And, you know, people can say about, you know, Urban Meyer leaving.
We prayed for him.
He prayed for him.
Awesome, Dave.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
But I think Urban Meyer going to Ohio State's the best thing that ever happened for Big Ten, you know.
I agree.
You know, so anyway, that's good stuff. So what, Dave, what's the mood on campus with Notre Dame? I think they got a good football team this year. Zaire is really showing to be a really good quarterback. I think expectations have changed to being from a good team, good bowl team, to maybe contending for the whole thing now, right?
Yeah, expectations are high, but then again, at Notre Dame, expectations are always high. You know, Notre Dame is kind of like the New York Yankees in that, you know, they're polar. You have the entire country, 50% hate them, 50% love them. There's no give or take on that. No in between at all. It's pretty cut and dry. But there was controversy here 5-10 years ago when we were going through coaches left and right that, you know, based on academic standards, maybe Notre Dame couldn't be what it was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then before that, when we won national championships with Dan Devine and others, Ara Parsegian. But I think perception has changed. This year's team is it's deep. We have a lot of talent. I think last year would have been a decent year for us had the injury bug not hit us at the end of the season. And then we couldn't handle the ball well at all. A lot of that had to do with the quarterback position, and not all of it was on Everett Golson, but he would get into panic mode, and you know, once one rock fell down the mountain, it was just a rock slide from there.
Right.
But I think this year has the fan base more excited than when we went undefeated in the regular season a couple years ago before we got slaughtered by Alabama in the national championship game.
Yeah. Now I'm able to see my sons betrayed me. They followed my wife and became Notre Dame fans, so they're all fired up this season. You know, they're really loving it. NC Raleigh, just want to welcome you to the room. And so if it's NC Raleigh, you must be a North Carolina State fan. That'd be my guess.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah, Notre Dame, their season imploded. Started the implosion year when they came to Tempe and played Arizona State. Golston had all those interceptions. It was a nightmare game, and then they never really recovered.
Yeah, it was. It was almost like a perfect storm. We started out the season really well. Those first 6 games went great. Golson was being talked about as a Heisman Trophy candidate. And then, halfway through the season, we were getting decimated by injuries. Turnover bug hit us. It was just, it's like one thing compounded, one thing came after the other, and we couldn't gain traction or footing past that. But once we got into the bowl game, we played LSU, and Malik Zaire, our quarterback now, got the start. We got a whole different footing. It was like a new team was on that field with LSU that day. Not even the same team that played the regular season. So that's where tempo and attitude and mindset changed, and I think that's being reflected so far, especially given last week's game with Texas. Not to take anything away from Texas, I think they have a lot of improvements they need to make, but Notre Dame showed that they have quite the talent pool to pull from.
Yeah, Notre Dame, I think will always, be on everybody's list. They should want to be considered to go there. They like, that tradition is still there. I don't buy the academic argument at all, because I think they've proven it through the years, and Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw certainly proved it at Stanford. James Franklin had a short run down at Vanderbilt, but he brought in good players that were also good students. The issue I'm interested in seeing how it plays out is finally the kids are getting a cost of attendance allowance. They get a little bit of spending money while they attend school, but it's not equal. And the conferences themselves can set the amount. And like the Southeast Conference has a formula that they've got right now going, and Kentucky is one of those schools that can't give as much cost of attendance as others. So it's going to be interesting to see if students start picking schools based on how much money they're going to get to spend while they're in that school.
I'm not really a big fan of that whole policy, because when you're in college, regardless if you're an athlete or not, you should be attending classes. So if you're an athlete, you get money for attending classes, but other students don't.
Yeah. It's an interesting issue, but I think the ship has sailed. That Ed O'Bannon case has opened it up for athletes to start making some level of money. And but we were talking earlier about non-revenue producing sports. They have very few scholarships that they can give out. How do you pay them? Do you pay them as well? But it's going to be interesting to see how that all transpires. So, go ahead.
It's a modest stipend. It's not like a whole lot of money. And just me, the comedian in me, is like, yeah, so that just means they can, Terrell Pryor could have gone out and got his tattoos.
Yeah. Well, that's what the kids were arguing. They weren't looking to buy a car.
No,
but they couldn't take their girlfriend to a movie.
Right.
Those were the complaints. They didn't have that. They didn't have money for just basic entertainment. So
anyway. Kids needed. Yeah.
But I would come back and counter that argument and say that there are other college students out there who are going through the same thing, who are not athletes. And I just feel like, okay, just because they're athletes, they're getting their $20 a week so they can go on a date. But you have other ones who are out there in the same situation; they're not getting anything.
Right.
And I know that the reality is that these people here may not be your stereotypical students, but as a status point of view of things, I do view these people as still students. And you can take all the case in the world. Well, they don't go to class. Well, I remember I went to school with some people who were not athletes, and they didn't go to class. So it's all it's all the same in my opinion. So.
Right. Yeah. I had some. When I went to the University of Kentucky, I had a couple basketball players that they didn't. Yeah, going to class was a challenge for them. They didn't show up much, but there was others. I couldn't believe I had an 8 o'clock philosophy class, and I had a classmate, Derek Horde was his name. He played basketball for him. He was there every morning, man. I couldn't believe it. Even if they played Thursday night. So it's what the student makes. You know, if they really want the education, they'll do it. If not, they'll just coast and hopefully sign an NFL or NBA contract. So
Yeah.
now Huskers used to be Big 12 guys. Let me ask you guys this question. We were talking about what happened to Oklahoma and Texas. What's happened to them as a program, and why is Baylor and TCU now the top dogs?
I don't know on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Texas got – for me, I lived in Houston for 12 years before I got out here to LA a year ago. So I've seen the Longhorn mentality out there, and pretty much they think their doo-doo doesn't stink. And there's a lot of political crap going on at UT, from the AD to the school president to the coach. I like their coach. Say that again.
I was just commenting that the AD and the president of Texas, they can't stand each other.
Right. They do not like each other, and that's a political thing, and it actually filters into the state legislature and all that kind of stuff. And they got a little bit too big for their britches, I think. Even though I love their coach, I think their coach is going to bring them back to prominence. But OU, I don't know what happened to Stoops.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was hoping when Texas was forcing everybody's hand to have the Longhorn Network, which they got. I mean, they essentially said there's no Big 12, there's the Texas Longhorns and everybody else. I was hoping, for us who live out west, I was hoping that the Pac would pick up Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and grab them. That would have been a nice coup. Yeah, we do have an A&M person in here. Layla has just shown up, and she was she didn't taunt me last week, but she called me out on Twitter about A&M beating ASU and wanted to make sure I had a follow-up blab to discuss that. And so anyway, hello Layla, how are you? But
Hi, Layla.
she's a big time blabber. She's all over the place. So, but she loves her A&M guys, A&M team, and so
A&M has resurgence.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And A&M to rub salt into ASU's wounds. The 2 stars to game was the quarterback and a wide receiver, and they were both from Arizona. They came out of Chandler high school system. So Chandler and Scottsdale. So that's not fun.
Why did the Pac-12 school not get those 2 players?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, Graham and Rich Rodriguez were hard after those kids. To Graham's defense, he was just getting here when Kyle Allen decided to go play quarterback for A&M. But they can't afford to lose. We're talking about 4 and 5 star talent. They can't afford to lose that to some team out of state. And
Rich Rodriguez is a great recruiter. He's very underrated. I mean, he didn't have the best tenure while at Michigan on the field, but as far as the quality of talent that he can get, he's a great recruiter.
He's been getting 4 or 5 star recruits the past 2 years.
Yeah, and that's to come play in Tucson for the University of Arizona. The whole Michigan deal didn't work out. He has a totally different style than the old that whole Michigan man thing. I mean, they thought Brady Hoke was going to be the answer, but they should have known better. But Michigan's got the right guy now. They got the right guy. He fits like a glove. Rodriguez is totally happy in Arizona. It seems like I don't know if he'll get the urge to go back east to play it all, because I tell you, the Pac-12 South, that's a heck of a division. And
very underrated division.
Extremely underrated, and competitively, they're going to be right there. Like people talk about the SEC West a lot. I think the Pac-12 South is as good a division there is in college football right now.
And sadly, they're on the West Coast, so they're not going to get – there's that – and do you guys believe that there's an East Coast media bias?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. I lived in Boston. I lived in Boston for like 6-7 years, and I go to work next day. Oh, did you watch the Celtics on TV? No, I was watching some Pac-12 basketball game. Like, why in the world are you watching that?
Nice.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave?
In previous years, yes, there absolutely was, an East Coast, West Coast bias as far as the sports writers and media. But I don't think that's so prevalent these days in the age of social media and ESPN with their capabilities of having, 12 different games that people can check out at once, whether you're, a sports beat writer or Joe Schmo citizen. I mean, if bias was factored in, you wouldn't see the resurgence of Oregon coming back into the picture in the last 5 years and having the success and rankings they do going into the season. Same with USC. UCLA is getting a lot of love with Jim Mora in the last couple of years. So I think I think that it still might be there, but definitely not to the extent of what it used to be.
I think with your diehard fans that you make an effort to actually watch and pay attention, that is indeed the case. But if you're one of these casual people who are just casual football fans, come Saturday night, you're gonna be hanging out with friends. You're gonna go out to like a bar. You're gonna go to a concert. You're gonna be hanging out with family. You're gonna be staying home and watch a movie or something. Most of those people there, they're watching, SEC and Big Ten and Big 12 all day on TV and ACC probably, but by the time the Pac-12 starts their games out west, most of those people who are very casual fans are going to say, "No, I'm going to go do something else."
Yeah,
a lot of those.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say a lot of those programs, they'll have tentative start times for their games, especially when it's against a common West Coast opponent. Stay. UCLA is playing Stanford or something like that. Whereas that game start time might have been 8 p.m. Well, on the schedule it says TBD for its start time. They can kick it back to 5 p.m. Pacific. That way it's prime time on the East Coast where the majority of the American population lives, or East and Central time. That way they're getting more exposure. Yeah. You're seeing that a lot more here in the last 5 years than you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I would say with that, that part's very, very valid. But what has changed, a couple things. One, I'll go back to the DirecTV contract or lack thereof for the Pac-12 network. That cuts out a lot of viewers back on the East Coast. What's within the Pac-12 is actually a little bit of bias, California versus the other states as well. And Arizona is in a tough spot. What you're talking about, Dave. Try to go to Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe on a midday game this time of year, man. It is hot, dog. I mean, it is hot.
Oh, I know. My dad lives in Las Vegas, and I go see him at least once a year. And I've been there when it's 113 degrees on the Strip, and I can't imagine sitting in a football stadium at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and baking in that all day.
Yeah, they're starting to do renovations now, but we're talking about aluminum seats, and it is miserable. So they try to do 7 p.m. kickoffs as much as they can for a home game. Well, that's 10 o'clock on the East Coast. They're not going to get the viewers. But that's that's just a problem being in Arizona. But now, what they need to do is capitalize the fact that South is so strong. The coaching matters, and they've got 2 good coaches. Ty Graham and Rich Rodriguez is really they're teaming up in a good way to help the Pac-12 get stronger and help the state of Arizona get stronger. So,
yeah. Plus, Pac-12 has look at that. There's 2 good Arizona teams plus USC, UCLA. Oregon's got Phil Nike just throwing his life savings into that entire program. So they should be relevant, but there's still the time zone issue in late games. But I wouldn't want to see a game in Phoenix like that. That would just be like
What they typically do with the schedules for the month of September, they make all the home games at 7 p.m. for both U of A and ASU because of the heat. But come October, though, it becomes very beautiful in both places, so it's better. It's more tolerable. I remember a few years ago, though, I did go to a U of A football game that was right at the end of September, beginning of October, and it was like the last weekend of the insane heat, and we put the game on in the afternoon because of the respective opponent. If you look at the matchup and what was going on, it was specified, but from where my seats were, the sun was right at my eyes, and I was not smart enough to bring my hat with me or anything like that. But I mean, still, even outside of that, though, I was hot, I was sweating. All I had to do was just go 2 rows back, and I'm in the shade, but the place was completely packed, you know. So, it was a very enjoyable game. It was a great game to watch, but when you factor in the weather and where I was logistically, it made it painful to watch.
Yeah. How about this, Dave? Notre Dame's affiliation with Atlantic Coast Conference. What do you think about that? I mean, you play ACC games, but you're really not part of the ACC in total.
Yeah, the current situation with the ACC is Notre Dame has agreed to play at least, I believe it's 5 ACC opponents each year for the next, I believe it's 10 years. I have to double check that. But I think it's good for us because it brings us into the tie-in to the playoff system. But despite the conjecture that you might hear on ESPN and talk radio, Notre Dame will not ever relinquish their independence.
Oh, I agree. I don't think they will either.
They make too much money from being independent and their own brand.
That's just what it is. And we have too many traditional rivalries that the fan base would not put up with relinquishing. We just gave up Michigan last year was the last time we played them, but we're already talking about adding them again in the hopes of getting a 13th game on the schedule if Michigan's open to it. And they have talked about being open to restarting that rivalry. But we have, rivalries with schools like USC and Navy and Michigan State that go back decades. I'm talking earliest part of the 1900s. So we're not going to give up those traditional rivalries just to join a conference. They're set with their NBC contract that was just renewed, so they don't have to worry about the revenue coming out of the network sharing agreements that normal conferences do and getting that slice of the pie. So yeah, the talk and conjecture of Notre Dame eventually being forced into a conference is not going to happen. People talk about, Notre Dame's only playing 12 games, not 13. It's not fair. You got to remember, those teams that are playing 13 games are only playing that 13th game because of a conference championship. And Notre Dame doesn't play any Division II schools. We don't schedule them. We never have. Whereas, teams like LSU have 2 to 3 Division II schools on their schedule, and that's great. The SEC schedule that they have, their conference schedule is stacked. Don't get me wrong, but when you're playing your kids that are 4 or 5 star athletes against kids that didn't get scholarship offers from D1 schools, it's more or less like a glorified practice. So I don't really go for that argument of Notre Dame not playing by the rules.
What was the reason for stopping the Notre Dame-Michigan rivalry?
Notre Dame gave notice that they wanted to end that series because of the tie-in agreement that they made with the ACC in order to get access to the tie-in with the ACC as far as bowl games. And the schedule just didn't allow. At the time, there weren't that many weeks in the regular season to allow for that rivalry game. And we placed more emphasis on keeping the tradition of USC and Navy instead of Michigan. We just play more games with them. We have in our history. Navy is an opponent that we have great respect for. We hosted naval cadets here on campus during World War II when the Naval Academy was pressed into active service. Notre Dame has a long history of their ROTC program and assisting with the military, and that wasn't an opponent that the university was willing to give up in order to keep Michigan.
Understood.
Wow, you know your history, dude. I'm very impressed. You look like maybe you're 22 or 23, and you know like World War II and all this stuff. Like, wow. I'm impressed, Dave.
Culture.
If he lives around the South Bend and he's going to hang around Notre Dame and everything, he'll find out that when he's dating, I don't know if you're dating or married yet, Dave. Looks like you're married. Are you married? I was going to say, usually the females will know.
I'm married. I'm nearly 30 years old.
Okay.
I was a firefighter and a police officer here in town, so I know my stuff a little bit about the university. I don't know everything. But.
Right. I don't want to sound sexist, but at Notre Dame, the female that you're dating and about to marry, she'll know about as much about football as you will. And in the same way with the Kentucky, you better know your basketball or you won't go out on that first date, But and then look at me, I fall in love and marry a Notre Dame fan. What am I thinking, But anyway, it's good stuff. Hey, Kelly, let me ask you about Nebraska now. How big of a deal was that for you and for the state, really, what you heard when they left the Big 12 to go to the Big 10? And neither conference can count properly, by the way. They don't know how many teams they have.
No.
So
all about branding.
Yeah.
I think personally it was a better fit for the football program and even the basketball program and our volleyball program, because the women's volleyball team is one of the best in the country. It is every year. They've won 3 national titles. So I thought from a school's perspective, because I think the Big Ten is more of a blue-collar conference, and I thought that was I was disappointed because I'm still, and Layla will like this, but I'm still pissed at Texas for screwing up the Big 12, because Texas basically screwed the Big 12 because their ego got too big. So I'll never, ever like them. So, but I think it fits their program, their academics, their sports much better than the Big 12 in its current state does. I missed the Big 8 because that's what I grew up watching. I grew up hating Barry Switzer, even though now I'd buy that guy a beer in a heartbeat. And I would just, I've heard stories about him on campus because one of my friends is an OU grad, blah, blah, blah. But in the current state of athletics, it's a perfect fit for us.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it will transpire, but I agree with you is that Texas has done a lot of damage to the conference and the brand, and for Nebraska to leave, that's a big deal for Nebraska to leave, and the Big 12's got to go out and get two teams. We talk about Notre Dame's independence. I think Brigham Young should go down to the Big 12, but they want to try to make it a go on their own as well. So let's talk about the game day experience. There's been a lot of money's been thrown out to remodel stadiums and make the game day experience better. What do you guys think is the most important thing in this day of technology and comfort and everything? Claire, why don't you tackle that one?
Well, this is actually kind of interesting because I do participate in a social media sports chat almost every week on Twitter. So I've talked to some of these people who are in charge of some of the stuff online. But when you're talking about things like technology and so forth, they always try to push initiatives to make to basically connect the digital age with the respective game day experience while you're actually at the game in itself. Well, the problem with that is most of these places that I go to, I'm talking about Arizona Stadium, McHale Center, and the various venues here in Phoenix, like Chase Field, US Airways, I can't get any sort of data signal. I can't connect to their Wi-Fi because so many people are connecting to it. I can't get any type of cellular connection because all the cellular stuff is all jammed. So in order for the game day experience to be improved in a digital point of view with things, the first thing that they have to do is to be sure everybody can actually connect. There are a lot of good imaginative things that are going on out across the social media space to go ahead and interact when it comes to various like contents and curation and so forth. But they would be getting more of that if people can actually connect and interact like that. As far as everything else is concerned, and when it comes to college football, you can't really beat college football because it's the crowd that actually makes it. The more people that are there, the more spirit that there is there, the more enjoyable it is. And every team has their own like little way of doing things. Some of it's university, some of it might be cultural. Like I'll go to a U of A tailgate, I'll see a mariachi band over there. But if I go to a BC game, you're not going to see that. That's like a unique thing that kind of that goes on. And that's because of the respective region. They do, the game day experience. Though I think it's what makes college football very, very unique. And there are people out there who don't really care about the game, but they enjoy being in the actual atmosphere of it. One last note here I'll point out too is eBay has a little bit of an issue, and it makes it in perspective regarding the game day experience is that half of the people who go to the tailgate don't go to the games. In order for you to get a tailgate pass, you have to have season tickets. Great. Well, those people are going. All their friends are going and stuff like that. They're there for the party. They're there for the hype and everything. And then most of them honestly go home and watch the game at home when the tailgate's over.
Yeah, that's I know people in University of Kentucky did the same thing. They're making a big investment into the into Wi-Fi accessibility and all that technology. I'm just looking at apparently I'm not making a cultural or religious decision here, but it looks like Satan loves Notre Dame. So just take that for what it's worth. Anyway, but I'm gonna post this into the chat room here. But there was a Wall Street Journal article that was done in July, and they were surveying people about the college game day experience, and I think all of us would think, man, you got to have your Wi-Fi, you got to have a social media activity going on, and they were saying, man, we need things like bathrooms. We need better bathrooms to improve the game day experience. So it's interesting to me. Kelly, do you have any thoughts on about what do you think needs to be done for the game day experience? I mean,
well, I'll speak to an NFL stadium just because it still matches the college game day experience. Because NRG Stadium, which used to be Reliant Stadium, hosted the Super Bowl in 2003 in Houston, which is where I used to live. And you would go in there and you would have no cell phone, whatever, and I couldn't check the scores of the rest of the game while I'm in that stadium. As early as last year, that was a big, huge complaint. And they're supposed to host a Super Bowl. So the Wi-Fi was a big game day experience thing. But the flip side to that is Levi Stadium in San Francisco, which is not really in San Francisco, it's in San Jose. They have all the bells and whistles, but from what I've understood, it doesn't have a great game day experience. And then I'll throw the third thing in, is if you've got a great team like Dave has in Notre Dame, as long as you've got good bathrooms and decent food, and you've got a good program, people are going to come. And the game day experience is not going to be as important. Put a good product on the field, and then augment the good product with a decent game day experience in your set. To me, because I would love to go to watch a Notre Dame game, because of that game day experience, because I know how great it is. But then again, Nebraska went and played Notre Dame one year, and we had more people in the crowd than they did, but that was like a down year for them. So, my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Those are good points, Kelly. Kentucky, they just spent $120 million. Stadium looks gorgeous. I haven't seen it live, but I've seen on TV now. But if Kentucky goes 3-9, that people aren't going to be coming at the end of the season. They'll stay home. But you got to have a good product. and it's different for different expectations. I mean, Notre Dame expectations are try to win a national championship. For Kentucky is go to a bowl, during the holidays. And if they can, I mean, we don't think they're going to win a national championship with football. But if they're not in bowl contention towards the end of the season, the fans don't show up.
But for Nebraska, though, for their part, they're 300 billion sellouts. So we haven't had a non-sellout game since like 1962.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Jeez.
Yeah, and out here in Claire, when's the last time that Sundell Stadium and the Old Pueblo down in Tucson, when they've sold out?
I know that they sold out like two or three games last season. Now, if they stay for an entire game, that's a different story. But no, it was. I know for a fact that they sold out or close to two or three games. Well, to be fair about it, though, when you're talking about back and just so it's been a while since they really sold anything out before last year.
Yeah,
but in Arizona, you got so much more things you can do. Like in Nebraska, that's it. On Saturday, that's the third largest city in the state.
Yeah,
85, 90,000 people. And me, and my relatives are all posted on Facebook after every play, and people on Twitter. So that's it. That's it. But in Arizona, my gosh, there's so much great things you can do on a Saturday afternoon and not go sit on an aluminum seat in 110-degree weather.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm being a little bit biased here, but I think what you're saying is really more true with Phoenix than Tucson. Tucson, you still have a lot of your great outdoorsy things that you can do and golf and stuff like that. But on the flip side, though, if it's like the basketball program, you can have a 2,000-seat stadium. They're going to sell it every single game. But it's a basketball school, and the thing is, like, people casually say, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to football and stuff," but the urgency really isn't quite there. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah, I do now. Thank you.
So, but no, I could completely understand about the point of view though about more things going on. Yeah, there are more things going on than some of like the Midwestern states or the Plain states and stuff like that. So, I mean, what you're saying though is definitely more right than not. I'm just making it a little bit more localized with the statement there. So,
Dave, I'm glad you're back. Satan gave you 666 props, so I had to add 8 of them to knock it off there a little bit. But
I've known Satan for a while. He's a Periscope celebrity of sorts. He's a great guy. I also know Chuck, who just came in. Sorry about me dropping out. My signal, for whatever reason, after about 10 minutes. Blab decides to go all cattywampus on me.
Right. Well, it's still been a great technology so far. I don't know if any of you use other platforms. Google Hangouts is something I've done a little bit of sports stuff on, and this is so much easier, so much more stable. So, props to Blab. I think this is a really fun platform. It's very simple in the fact that you can use it mobile like you're doing, Dave, or desktop like some of us are doing. It's great. I hope they get an Android app very soon. But yeah, I agree, Kelly. Cattywampus. That only in South Bend do you hear those kind of phrases, man.
I'll be right back.
I did talk to some.
Actually, cattywampus comes from the South. It actually comes from a Periscope person that we follow, myself and C. Faustine, Chuck, and as luck would have it, is Satan as well. Sock Cop on Periscope. If you haven't looked up, or if you haven't heard of Sock Cop before, look him up. He's a good guy.
Okay.
But going back, I dropped out while you guys were talking about stadium improvements and things of that nature. We're building that's where I'm working now. We're building a $450 million addition to Notre Dame Stadium, where actually 80% of the project is devoted to academics, but they're adding 2 new press boxes with luxury seats and all that. They're adding about 3,000 seats to the stadium, which will bring us closer to that 85 to 90,000 fan range. But anything that will enhance the fans' experience and bring the fan more engaged in the experience of game day is what they're looking for, as far as, connectivity and video boards and things of that nature. That's been a big controversy here. Notre Dame, we have no big screen jumbotron or anything like that, and the traditionalists wanted no part of that. But that was announced in the last couple of weeks that we're actually getting a 96-foot by 54-foot jumbotron on the south side of the stadium as part of the addition that'll be here.
Now, help me out, Dave. Will that obscure the view of Touchdown
in
Jesus?
2017. So it's exciting. Anything that makes the experience better is good for the fan, no matter what school you're at.
The University of Arizona, a couple of years ago, they installed, at the time, was the second largest video board in any football stadium in the country. The only other one that was bigger at the time was the one at Cowboy Stadium. And that really, I think that improved the game day experience over there, because they were able to utilize the board for various things outside of the promotions, of course, which all these programs love to do. But it did try to energize the crowd a little bit more with what they were able to do and utilize with the board. And not only that, they show replays on there. It's so much easier to see a replay on a screen like that compared to some of the smaller screens.
Yeah, the administration here have already dictated that there will be no advertisements, no sponsors on the video board. It's going to be used for replays and things of that nature, but also to promote things that the university does in between, like TV commercial breaks, to recognize people that are associated with the university and different programs, things of that nature. So I think it's cool.
You know what? I've had a great time talking, and John, thanks for doing this for the second Saturday row here. But I do have to run. I have a social media event to attend to in about an hour or so.
Right. I'm at the same boat. I'm just looking. It's getting ready to hit the top of the hour, and I got to get ready for an appointment. And I'm glad Claire, you came back on, and David, it was great meeting you. And Kelly, I hate to bolt while you're gone, but it was great having you on. But let me know. I've been starting at 8 in the morning Arizona time, which is 11 East Coast. Does that time work, or should I push it to like more the noon hour on the East Coast? By the end, the football games have started, so I was trying to do a little bit of pregame. But anyway, if you have any ideas on that, let me know. But
for me personally, I don't really have any set schedule on Saturday mornings unless I head down to Tucson for a game or something. But I mean, normally it's like, some Saturdays I go to the gym, some Saturdays I don't. This was a Saturday I didn't, so it's really hard for me to pinpoint an exact time. I just turned the game on. I'm like, okay, well, what's going on, Blab, and saw you on here again. So
yeah, I've got back-to-back next 2 Saturdays in a row. I've got 9 a.m. appointments that I already know about, so I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that. But anyway, I may fire one up again tonight. I like this Oregon-Michigan State game. If there's some controversy, I'll try to get some rants going at the end. So, but anyway, let's go. What?
I was just mentioning
Tennessee, Oklahoma. That's a good one. And LSU, Mississippi State will be interesting because LSU's game was canceled last week. So this is the first time playing, and they're going to play Mississippi State. So those are some good games. So let's go ahead and shut it down. And this has been awesome, guys. I appreciate y'all coming on. And we'll catch you. You just look forward to me. I'll schedule them, and hopefully you get your notifications on, and we'll do this again.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. All right, have a great day.